Hi everyone. So welcome to Module 3 Part 2. We're having a great discussion about printing notes and everything. So in Module 3 Part 2, we are going to finish our voting or counting methods. So as we talked about, as Tanisha talked about earlier, this will be your number 5, the pairwise comparison. We're going to talk about it in this video. So if you're wondering where that was, it's going to be in this video. And then we're going to introduce fair division. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed, because I did this yesterday, but I did make a video on the divider chooser method. So after you watch this, did you guys watch it yet or no? That's okay. That's honest. Gotcha. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce fair division to kind of get you started, to help understand what is fair division. And then after this, before you do your discussion board, I encourage you guys to watch that video. It's not, I think it's like 15 minutes. So watch that. And then if you have questions on it, you can always email me. We'll talk about the discussion board at the end though. It'll make more sense once we go through it together. So let me go ahead and bring this up. I don't care. You don't have to mute if you don't. You're all good. Yeah, I don't hear any feedback, so perfectly okay. So we're going to switch up our example today. No more math club. Our example today is going to be the Tasmania State University Marching Band. And they are so good that they have to choose where they're going to play. So they have a couple options. This is before the corona, when there are actually events to go to. They have the Rose Bowl, the Hula Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Orange Bowl, or the Sugar Bowl that they could go through. So they went ahead and they surveyed all of their band members and they said, hey, go ahead and tell me which one you'd like, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So they each did a preference ballot, which we talked about in part 1. And they said, okay, these are the results. And we put them in a preference schedule, which is just the name of our table that we're using. And they said 49 people voted this way with Rose first, Hula, Fiesta, Orange, and then Sugar. 48 people voted this way, and then 3 people voted this way. So there's only 3 columns this time, so that's good. I won't make you do the board account method on this example, so you can be happy about that. But I did want to talk about a couple things first. The first one is, who is the plurality candidate? So you guys remember, with the plurality method, which row do we care about? The first. So we only care... Very good. We only care about the first. So can anyone tell me who would win the plurality? It would be R. Because they have 49 votes, right? Very good. So, Rose would win because they have 49 votes. But if you look here, it looks like Rose is last place for the other 48 plus 3, which is 51 members. So more than half the members are like, oh, I don't really want to go to the Rose Bowl. So will they be happy? Probably not. Probably not. Yeah, exactly. So the question is there a better option? Is there something else that we can choose to make everyone happy? Because, right, you want to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page. You can't make everybody happy, but hey, we'll try. So the method we're going to use is called pairwise comparisons, which is basically comprised of head-to-head comparisons. So when you think of head-to-head comparisons, I want you to think of 2 people battling it out, right? And we're going to see who's the winner of each one of those head-to-head comparisons. So I'll show you in a second. We're going to start with head-to-head comparisons and see how we use that to complete the pairwise comparisons. So we're going to do a head-to-head comparison of hula versus rose to start off with. So what you do is the following. So we're going to go column by column and we're going to figure out who wins that column. So they get those points. So hula and rose, we're going to see who is higher in the first column. So if you see rose is here and hula is here. So that means that rose would win those 49 votes because rose is higher. Who would win the 48 votes here? Hula or rose? What do you guys think? Who's higher? Hula is higher than rose. So hula would get those 48 votes there. And then the last column, we're looking just at hula and rose, right? We're just looking at those two head-to-head comparisons. Who would win those 3 votes? Hula. Mm-hmm. So,
because of the positions that they're in, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. So what we do is we say, okay, well, it looks like if we compare who got more points comparing those two, who would you say would be the winner in just that head-to-head comparison? Hula, right? Because they have more votes. Exactly. So hula would win in that head-to-head comparison. Let's go ahead and try another one. Let's try hula versus fiesta. So we're going to change this up a little bit. So this time we're just looking at H and F and we're seeing who wins each column. So 49 votes. Who would win those 49 votes? Hula or fiesta?
I would say hula.
Hula's higher, so we're going to give those 49 votes to hula. And then 48, hula or fiesta?
Hula.
Yep, exactly. And then last but not least, the 3 votes, who would win?
Fiesta.
Doesn't matter, those 3 votes don't really do much for fiesta, but
No, don't do a thing for fiesta.
So H would win that head-to-head comparison again. Hula would win that head-to-head comparison. So Hula's doing pretty good right now. But there's a lot of different head-to-head comparisons that we would need to make. I'm just going through some of those right now. So let's do hula versus orange and see who wins. You can probably guess who's going to win. But hula versus orange, who wins the first column? Hula. I'm assuming they're going to Hawaii, and who wouldn't want to go to Hawaii? Everybody should have that as their first choice. Hula, yes, hula will win over orange in the second column as well. And then last but not least, who's going to get those last 3 points? Hula, very good. So, in fact, hula, yeah, they got everything. Orange has 0. So hula is going to win again. So when you think about this, I'm not going to do hula versus sugar. You guys can try that out, but spoiler alert, hula wins. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Hula's higher than sugar in every single row, so they would get all 100 points. So when we look at this, it's really asking the question, should we go to rows, when in most situations, hula would be the winner if you had to choose just between the two of them. So it's interesting to think about, oh, maybe rows, even though they won the plurality vote, is that where everybody's going to be happy to go to? Maybe hula would be make everyone happy, right? So something to think about. So we're going to use those head-to-head comparisons to do the pairwise comparison, which is our last counting method. So we did the plurality method, we did the board account method, we did plurality with elimination method in the first part. We're going to finish by talking about pairwise comparisons. So pairwise comparisons takes all of the possible head-to-head comparisons, and we have to do all the calculations. Random phone call. All the calculations for those head-to-head comparisons, and then we're going to give points for those battles. I'm going to call them battles. So like hula versus Rose would be a battle, right? And hula won that, so they would get that 1 point for winning that battle. In other words, if they lose, they don't get any points, and if they tie, that you give them a half a point. But I don't think there's any times that it will be tied. But the candidate with the overall most wins or most battles that they've won is going to be the winner overall. So let's go ahead. We are going to go back to that math example. So I'm going to skip this slide real quick. Don't worry about that slide. We're going to just jump into the example because we're going to see who wins the math club election. I actually forgot that we were going back to this one. So fun fact. Okay, so here is our preference schedule once again. So the first step is to come up with all possible pairwise comparisons. So you have to think of all the different battles that could be. So the first one would be like A versus B. So Alicia versus Boris. That would be one battle. Another battle would be Alicia versus Carmen. Alicia versus Dave. Can you guys think of any other battles? There's 6 in total.
Are we just looking at the first row or all 4 choices?
All 4 candidates. All 4 candidates. So there's A, B, C, and D. So think of all the different ways you could combine those. What'd you say?
B versus C.
B versus C. Absolutely.
Let's see. It could be B versus D.
B versus D would work. Yeah. One more.
And
Who hasn't been? We've got all of A. B's versus everybody. C has almost C versus D. That's going to be the last one. The good news is on your homework, you don't have to come up with all the battles. There's 4 players as well, so they're the same battles. Just you have to calculate who wins each battle. So something to think about. So remember, each one of these is a head-to-head comparison. So you have to look at each row and see who wins. So let's start with A versus B. So A versus B, we need to figure out who's winning each column and then who wins the battle overall. So the first column, 14 points, you have A and B. Who wins that column, A or B? A is going to get those 14 points. How about the 10 column, A or B? B is higher, so we're going to give B those 10 points. 8. A or B? Who's B is higher, yeah. 4. Here's B. Kind of gives it away when B's first place, right? And then B again, absolutely. So B is going to get that 1 point. So you see A has 14 and B has 23.
23 plus 2. Yes.
23. So that means that B will win. So when someone wins a battle, they get 1 point for winning overall. So the points within the game are just kind of like, oh, that's how many points you got in the game. That just determines the winner. Once you determine a winner, that's when you assign 1 point to the winner. So you won a game, basically. Okay, so let's try A versus C. So we're going to have to erase this and then see who wins again. So remember, we're just comparing A and C this time. So again, who's going to get 14 points? A, good. A is always going to win that column, right? It doesn't matter who they're against.
No matter what.
Exactly. So who gets 10? C. And similar, right? So 10, very good. How about 8? C, very good. 4? C again. And last but not least, 1. Good. It's much easier when you guys can just like shout it out, isn't it? It is. I like this. Let's keep doing this. So you can see here that C wins. Okay, so we're going to give them 1 point for winning that battle. Cool. Let's do A versus D. A's always winning that one. D wins the 10, D wins the 8. Exactly. We'll get more exciting. Don't worry, guys. You know, exactly. So D wins. So we're going to give D 1 point. Okay. So let's switch it up. We know A kind of wins the first column, but then loses everything else. So we're going to switch it up and we're going to look at B versus C this time. So a little bit different, just B and C. So who wins 14? B does. So B will get 14. How about the 10? C is going to win that one. Let's see. 8. 8. Good. You guys are doing my work for me. I'm cool with this. See? So it looks like B has a total of 18 points and C has a total of 19. So C does just edge out B here. Exactly. So C will get 1 point. So we just have 2 more battles that we need to do. So let's go ahead and knock those out. So yeah, sure. I'm not sure what you mean.
Oh, okay. So see how on this chart, first choice is A, B, C, A, C, B, B, C.
Yeah.
That's how I did it for the homework. I went straight across how they have it. I didn't put it in order from,
And you don't have to. So like, so when you're doing the plurality method, you're only looking at that first row. When you're doing like the plurality with elimination, you're just looking at that first row. for first choice. It's only now that we're in pairwise comparisons that we're switching to columns.
Okay. Oh, I see. So if you look down, it will be in order or whatever. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So,
Sure.
yep. Nope. That's perfectly okay. So now that we're in pairwise comparisons, we're going to work with those columns. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, I'm just going to go through these two real quick, if that's okay with you guys. You guys seem like you're nailing it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fine.
Let me know if you get anything else, though, that's different. +4. And then D gets 1. So what is that, 28?
Yep.
So it looks like B wins?
He wins, yep.
Okay, good. Okay, and then C versus D is our last one. So let's kind of just put that one together. So we're just looking at C and D. C wins 14. C wins 10. D wins 8. D wins 4, and C gets 1. Is that what you guys got?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Perfect. So we did all of the battles. Now what we want to do is we want to take the results from those battles and we need to go ahead and add up the totals. So,
Oh, so we add up all the points that each person won?
exactly. So A didn't win any, so no points, right? They didn't win any battles. B won 1, 2.
2.
So we got 2 points. And then C won 1, 2, 3.
C was partying.
Yeah. And then,
Oh, I see. So you grab every number that has 1 point and add those points together, and then okay.
exactly. So we're just grabbing the points down here, adding them together. And then we see that Carmen is actually going to be, Carmen is the pairwise winner. Or champion, whatever you want to say. So again, another person that won the election, a little bit different, just to reiterate that counting matters. How we count the votes matters. So, any questions on this one? Once you get into the rhythm, kind of just go.
Okay, wait. So when we get to the total part, we total up every letter and put the points together. And then what do we do next? Nothing?
We just see who has the most points, and that person is the pairwise winner. So we said, hey, Carmen has the most. Yeah.
Okay, so with our homework with this, we just go straight down the column and because it's only A, B, C, D. So it's only 4, right?
Yes. So
Pair up those 4 all the way across, or just I don't know. I think I'm confusing myself.
So just when you get to the homework, you'll be doing the same idea where you're going to set up the 6 battles and you're going to just see column by column who wins each column. And then you're going to see who wins that battle. And then once you win that battle, then you'll count up the total number of points.
So if it's like A, D, C, A in one column, I just put A and B together and C and D together like that to do the.
I think what you're asking is, how do you come up with who battles who? Is that? It's going to be the exact same. If you have 4 players, it's always going to be 6 battles. So it's legit going to be set up just the exact same way.
Okay.
You won't have to think about that part.
Okay.
Yep, that's going to be the exact same way. So, Just give that a try. Set it up the same way that we did here. Yeah. So you can take the Module 4 quiz if you'd like to. It is not due until next week, not this coming Sunday, but the week after. But it is over Module 3, Part 1, and then pairwise comparisons that we just talked about. So I would say make sure you go through your homework first, get that checked, make sure you're confident about the homework, and then try the Module 4 quiz. It is open. It's 4 multiple choice questions. You have 30 minutes. We did talk about this in Part 1, but you're going to have 1 question on each of these. My suggestion, do the plurality method first. They're randomized, right? Do the plurality method first, then do plurality with elimination, then do method of pairwise comparisons. Save the board account method for last because that can be the most time consuming. So just make sure you save that for last. And you want to take your time and you don't want to feel rushed like you're trying to do those calculations really fast and then get the incorrect answer. So that's my suggestion when you're tackling these. Try your best and give that a try if you'd like to. I like to do it when it's fresher in my mind, so that's just me. Right. Okay, so to get credit for watching the Mod 3 Part 2, the question is, what is a study strategy that you have found useful in this class? Or if you've been struggling, what is something that you want to start incorporating? So, like Tanisha, we've talked about sending me your homework, right? And then I know that Linda, we talked about something that's good for you is like printing the notes. Like that really helps. Like something like that. Just, oh, sure. Okay. What is a study strategy that you have found useful in this class? So what's something that you found useful? Or if you're struggling a little bit, what's something that you want to start incorporating more? So if the class has been going well, just tell me what you've been doing that's allowed you to be successful. If you've been struggling, what's something that you want to start incorporating? Okay. It's kind of like a 2-question thing. Okay. Are you guys ready to switch to fair division? No. Yes! That's what I heard. I have selective hearing. That's so true. So we're going to switch to fair division, and we're going to talk about fair division today, and we're going to continue talking about it on Monday of next week as well. So fair division. Oh, sorry. Yes. So if we look at our homework, boop. If we look at our homework for number 5, you're going to be doing the same method we just did with this same table. Yeah. So those 6 battles, and then you're going to go column by column. So you may want to copy this down here or here. Right, that's what I did. Just so you don't have to keep scrolling. I still have a question about the head-to-head on the chart if we can just... Sure. Real quick. I know you probably go, or we can wait till the end if you want to get into your fair division. I can wait. I don't know. It's okay. Let's wait till the end to talk about it a little bit more. Sometimes it helps when we just try it out, but yeah. Okay, so Fair division. So the question I present to you guys is, how do you divide 20 pieces of candy among 4 equally deserving children? We are happy you are here. Yay! Okay, we're just started fair division. So how do you divide that among 4 equally deserving children? So what would your guys' answer be?
I would divide 20 divided by 4.
Which would give you 5, right?
Right.
So that would be a normal answer. Most people would say that. But what if I show you the following picture?
Oh, wow.
Would it be fair to give each person like 5 pieces of candy and then everybody's going to be like, yay, I'm happy with that?
Sometimes it's not the method because I may give them something that they really don't like. Right.
Exactly. So not everything is equal in the eyes of everyone, right? Like, I'm not a chocolate person. Like, I mean, I'd probably like the Dentine Ice and Tic Tacs, you know. If you're a chocolate person, you want that. So the idea is that not everything's equal, right? So we really have to think about the question, how do you divide things fairly? What is considered fair? So this is something that has caused problems throughout the world. And you have negotiators and everything about how to make sure everything's fair. You have lawyers, right, to help, judges, everything like that. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about, as some strategies out there to divide things fairly and seeing what that means. So Ben Franklin said, if you want to know the true character of a person, divide an inheritance with him. So if you've ever been divorced before, you know how fun it is to divide your goods. It is not. It is not. Right? So fair division can be seen in places like if you were trying to divide up land rights or mining rights, countries, like if they divide up countries, how do you divide that up? Dividing oceanic mining rights, dividing global responsibility for the environment, like how do you fairly divide that? What is fair? Lots of conversations about that. Again, we don't get too political in this class. I'm just putting it out there. Wills and estates. If someone passes, how do you divide up the house, the car, the money, you know, things like that. Divorce proceedings. That's definitely a sticky situation. So fair division can be seen in lots of different areas. So we're going to start with some terminology to help us work through fair division games. So I like this pirate because he's like, I've got some goods that I need to split up. So the goods or booty, I did not make that up, by the way. It is in your book, okay? So you're like, you made that up. I know you did. So like, think of a pirate and his booty. Not his booty, but his booty. Okay. Let's continue on. So the goods are basically everything that you want to divide. So if it's like an estate, like what do you need to divide up amongst the children? And we're going to label the parts as S1, S2, S3, S4. Basically the different sections or slices. And the players are going to be the people that have a right to those goods. So this would be player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4. Basically whoever has a right to those items that you're dividing up. And then each player is going to have a value system. Now, a value system is what you quantify or give a number value to an item. So for example, I hate the chocolate in that example. So I would give the chocolate a 0 because I don't like it and it's worthless to me. I would throw it out or I would give it to somebody else. And then the Tic Tacs and the gum would be worth more to me because that's what I would eat. So you'd have a different value of that. Like perhaps it's a dollar amount that you would give that, or perhaps it's a percentage. So Tanisha, I know you were like, oh, give me that chocolate. So your percentage would be higher for that of what you crave more of that. So everybody has a different value system, which we just saw. So there are some basic assumptions of fair division games that we want to talk about. The first one is rationality. Now, this doesn't always, well, this one always happens, but each player is trying to maximize his or her share based on reason alone. So you want to get the most, right, possible. That's fair. Obviously you'd want to get the best pieces of candy if you could, right, Tanisha? Definitely. Cooperation. So in the game, we are saying that the players are willing participants and accept that after a finite number of moves, the game terminates with a division. So basically, you have to think like if you're getting a divorce and the two parties, they have to come to an agreement at some point. So this doesn't always happen, but I mean, eventually it kind of does, right? People get tired enough. And then the one that doesn't often happen in real life, but we're going to assume it for fair division games, is privacy. And what I mean by that is that players have no useful information on other players' value systems. So this would be like, you guys don't know that I don't like chocolate. So you wouldn't have that information before. So you wouldn't be like, well, I'll just take all the chocolate. You can have all the rest. Okay, thanks.
Right, because we don't know what you like, because we don't got no information about what it is each person likes or doesn't like.
Exactly. So privacy, we just don't know. And then the last section is symmetry. So players have an equal right in sharing. So imagine if it's you and your sibling and you're trying to divide up your parents' estate. It's assumed that you both deserve 50%. It's not like one child's the favorite and they get like 80% and you're left with 20%. You're each going to get an equal amount of the goods. So 50-50 in other words. So make sure you're assuming equal amounts.
But sometimes they don't get along when they are splitting things up still. Somebody still wants this and then the other person wants the same thing. So it's still a problem.
Right. So we're going to talk about that too in some of our examples with how do you make sure that when one person wants an item and the other person wants that same item, how can you divide that fairly? Is there a way to divide that fairly? And sometimes the answer is no, unfortunately. So I wish I could say yes, but unfortunately no. Okay, so there are many fair division methods known. We're going to talk about a couple today. There's one in the discussion board, and then there's one, there's a couple more next week. So, and that's only a small portion of everything out there. Now, the way that we divide our goods or our booty is depending on what type of goods we have. The first one is a continuous good. A continuous good is where there's an infinite number of divisions. You can divide it in infinite number of ways. And these are things like a pie, a land, money, things that you can cut up in a multitude of ways. Versus a discrete set of goods is where you can only divide it a finite number of ways. And these are things like jewelry, houses, candy, cars. You can only divide these things so many ways, right? I can't cut a car in half and give you half and me half. That's not going to be fair to anybody, right? Doesn't really work. So you can also have a mixed where, like, if you're doing an estate and you have like a house and a car, but then you also have money. It's a combination of the two, basically. So these are just kind of the ideas of it. Let's actually get into some calculations with fair division. So the outcome or goal of all methods is so that everyone feels like they have a fair share of the goods. So I want both of you to feel like, oh, I got a fair share of the goods and I'm happy and I'm going to walk away. I may not be getting the biggest and best share, but I still got a fair share for me. So what we do to calculate what percentage you deserve of the fair share is we take 100%, and we divide it by the number of players. So we're just going to go ahead and take 100% and divide it by the number of players. So for example, if there are 5 players, we would take 100% and divide by 5. That would give us 20% for each player. So if you're trying to divide up an estate and there's 5 kids, you need to make sure that everyone gets 20% of the goods. And now remember, each person might value something a little bit different, but they deserve at least 20% of what they value, in other words. What if I were to say if there were, let's say 10 players? How many people, what would be a fair share for 10 players? What do you guys think?
So it's 100% divided by 10.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we would do.
Yep.
That would be 10.
10% for each player. Yeah, exactly. So the percentage that you deserve as a player is just 100% divided by the number of players.
The higher the people, the less the percentage.
Yes. Yep, because you have to break it down into smaller pieces of the pie, basically.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, could you go back to take this?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm in to hurry up and do it before you.
Got it?
Okay.
Okay, you're welcome. So let's do our first example. So suppose that we have 4 players and that S has been divided into 4 shares. So this could be anything from like an estate to a pizza or anything. So let's imagine we have our pile of goods here, okay? And it's divided into 4 shares. They may not be equal, but I'm just drawing it this way. So S1, S2, S3, S4. These are just the names of the sections that we divided it into. Now, Paul, one of the 4 players, values the shares as following. S1 is 12%. S2 is 27%. S3 is 18%, and S4 is 43%. The question is, which of the shares would be fair shares for Paul? So before we can decide what should be fair shares, we have to figure out what is a fair share for 4 players. So for 4 players, and remember, is a fair share. Okay, so remember we came with 4 because they told us there's 4 players in total that are playing. So what do we do to figure out what is a fair share for 4 players? 100% divided by 4. Yep, that's going to get us
25%.
Yes, and that makes sense. Okay, so that means that you're on fire. Okay, so Paul has to have, to be a fair share, maybe write this, to be a fair share, you need to have 25% or higher. Okay? So it has to be at least 25 or higher to feel like, oh, that's a fair share. So For Paul, which of these would be considered fair shares? What do you guys think?
I think S2.
S2 would work. Very good, because it's 27%, which is higher than 25%. Good. Anything else? S4. Very good. Yes, absolutely. He obviously would prefer S4 the most, right? 43%. However, he would be happy with S2 as well. He would feel like he got a fair share, right? Because they're
So the other ones don't count because they're lower in percentages.
correct. So if he got S1 or S3, he wouldn't feel like he had a fair share. So those would not be considered fair shares, and we could not use them. Okay? So basically just S2 and S4 would work for Paul. That's it. Okay. Questions on that one?
Let me take a picture. But I think so when we get to see what's like, so for this example, we have an example like this to get to see what's the fair share. We just like write out a pie and put each percentage in by S1, S2, S3, S4 to see what will be a fair share for that one person.
Yes, I will show you what type of problems they're going to look like, though. They're not going to necessarily look like this. They're going to look more like this in table format. And you might have seen this if you like skimmed lower in the homework as well.
Right here. I did see that and I was like, what?
Yeah, so we're going to look at this together. So what they did is, over here we just talked about what Paul wanted, right? When we thought of the slices. But what about the other three players? We've got to think about everybody and what would be a fair share for everybody. So what we did here is we created a table and we said, here are the three slices, S1, S2, S3. They're dividing a pizza, okay? Maybe the pizza has different toppings, yes. So some has like pepperoni and some has sausage or mushrooms, whatever it is. And so what you see is that each row, the people have decided what they feel that piece is percentage-wise for them. So we look here, Abby is the first row, and she said slice 1 is worth 32% for her. Slice 2 is worth 33%, and slice 3 is 35%. So she just, they're arbitrary numbers that she came up with. Don't fret on where those numbers came up with. You'll be given them. That's just how she feels. Betty said, okay, S1, 34%, S2, 42%, and S3 is 24%. So it looks like she wants S2 the most, right? Exactly. Abby would want S3. Doesn't mean she's going to get the one that she wants the most, but we need to make sure she has a fair share. That's our key here.
So trying to get the one she wants the most.
Yes, but we just want to guarantee that she has a fair share, though. Okay, and then Cindy is 35%, 34%, and 31%. So the first thing we have to say is how many players are here? There's 3 players. So what is a fair share? For each player. Very good. So it's like 33.33333333. Keep on going forever. So it's 33.333%. Basically, you need, this is very important. So to be a fair share, you need 33.3% or higher. It cannot be less than that. Okay? That's my hint for you guys. Okay. So, we need to decide what are the fair shares for everyone. Nope. Okay. So let's start with Abby. We're going to go person by person. And I'm going to highlight the ones that are fair shares. So when you're looking at this, what do you think a fair share for Abby would be? So S2 is 33%. And sometimes we think, oh, that's enough. But it's missing that 0.3%, and that does make a difference. So that's the only tricky one here, guys. But S2 would not work. So it has to be that decimal or higher. It can't be lower. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's what I was asking. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So we're gonna look at the whole number when we trying to give a fair share for everybody.
Yep, exactly. So it looks like Abby's only fair share that she would like is S3. How about Betty, though? What do you guys think for Betty? What would be a fair share? Any other ones? Very good. Yes. Excellent, guys. Good, good, good. So S1 and S2 would work because both of those are higher than 33.3%. Mm-hmm. Good. And how about Cindy? What do you think for Cindy? Good. We agree. S1 and S2. So what you did is you decided what are all the fair shares. Now, you need to come up with a fair division. So imagine you are the person that's dividing these goods and you're like, okay, I have the pizza. I need to decide who is going to get what slice. I know what they think are fair divisions, and I have to make sure each person gets a fair share. So if I'm looking here, is there anyone that has to get one piece? Abby has to get S3. That's the only one that she feels is fair, right? So we have to give Abby S3. Now, does it matter if we give Betty S1 and Cindy S2 or vice versa? No, it doesn't matter. Because so if we want to make them happy, we would be like, oh, I'll give Betty S2, right? And then that would leave which slice for Cindy? S1. Yeah. So this would be one way to divide the pizza, right? But you could also do the following, where Betty gets S1 and Cindy gets S2, and that would be considered a fair division as well, because everyone's getting their fair share. Of course, this would be the ideal situation, right? Because everybody's getting their highest. Mm-hmm. Yep. So So they still feel like it's fair. They just didn't get like the highest thing they want, basically. So it's still a fair division. It's just not like the most amazing fair division. So sometimes there can be more than one fair division. I think on your homework, there's only one. So you don't have to worry about a couple different fair divisions. Okay, so that's when we're working with percentages. So see how they gave a percentage of how they felt about the pizza. But sometimes they can also do a dollar amount. So they can say, okay, I'm looking at this pizza. We're still working with pizza because you know how I love food. And we're cutting up that pizza, slice 1, slice 2, slice 3. And again, Abby, Betty, and Cindy are saying, okay, I'm looking at this pizza and this is how I value each of those slices. And this is just arbitrary amount of money. And just think of it as they're comparing the slices between each other, not between players. So what I mean by that is Abby says, well, if I were going to pay for these slices, I would give $5 for slice 1, $6 for slice 2, $4 for slice 3. Imagine these slices are like humongous slices. Okay. So what we need to do when we have a dollar amount is we need to find the total for that player, and then we need to figure out what would be a fair share for that player. Okay. So let's start with Abby. So what we need to do is we need to add up these values. So 5 plus 6 plus 4 is going to be 11. Or I'm sorry, 15. $15. Okay. And to find a fair share, what you need to do is you need to take that total and you need to divide it by the number of slices. There's 3 slices here, so we're going to divide it by 3. So that means for Abby, a fair share would be $5 or more. So what were the fair shares again?
She'll get S1 or S2 and S2.
Okay, very good. So the fair shares are anything $5 or more. So for her, $5 works because that's exactly what we got. So S1 would work for Abby and S2. So she would feel like those 2 slices are fair. If she got S3 though, she wouldn't feel like it's a fair division.
Because it's cheaper in value?
It's less than her fair share.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So how about Betty? So Betty values these things a little differently, which is fine. What we're going to do is we're going to do the same idea. I need to total that up. Did anybody total this up?
Not yet.
I think it's 12.
It is. It's 12.
Cool beans. So to find her fair share, what do we need to divide 12 by?
3.
Good. The number of slices, which is 3. So her fair share, Betty's fair share is $4 or more. So what slices would be fair shares for Betty? S2 and S3 would work. S1 would not because it's below that $4. Okay, so S2 and S3 are fair shares. So we couldn't give her S1. How about Cindy? Okay, we need to calculate. So notice each player has a different fair share amount depending on what they used as their numbers. So let's do the same thing. We're going to add that together. Did anybody add that together?
21.
21?
That's what I got.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
You're good. You're good. So Cindy apparently values the pizza much more. So it's $7 or more. So what do you guys think? What would fair shares be for Cindy?
S1 and S3.
Good, good. I heard both of you say that, so that's good. Excellent. S1 and S3. So, any questions on finding the fair share? So, in the percentage problems, you're taking the 100% divided by the number of players to find the fair share. But in the dollar amounts, you need to calculate each player's fair share individually, and then see what it is. So let's go ahead and come up with a fair division. So the first thing I do is I look through this and I don't see any player that has to have one piece, right? Like there's only, they each have like 2 choices. So I'm going to randomly say, let's go ahead and give S1 to Abby. Okay, just randomly, S1 to Abby. Now, if I give S1 to Abby, I can't give it to Cindy, right? So what slice do I have to give to Cindy now?
S3.
S3. And then now that S1 and S3 are out of the picture, what do I give to Betty? S2, process of elimination here. Very good. So this is one fair division, and it looks like everybody's going to be happy. It's at their minimum fair share. But there is another division that we could do to make everybody a little bit happier. We could change Abby to S2. And then once I give that slice 2 to Abby, so we gave Abby the S2 this time. So Betty would have to have the S3 now. Because, and then Cindy would be left with S1. Exactly. So kind of that process of elimination type thing. Yeah. Very good. So these are both different fair divisions, but they're both going to keep people happy. They're going to feel like they got a fair share. They're going to be happy with their pieces. This is just going to guarantee that people are a little happier with those pieces, right? You can't make sure everybody gets the biggest, best piece, but sometimes that's possible, right? We try to do that as often as we can. Any questions on this problem? That's good. That's good. Okay. So that is the end of fair division for right now. So what I want you to do after you watch this live classroom, before you do the discussion board, definitely check out this video here. Again, it's like 15 minutes. And what it does is it talks about the divider chooser method specifically. And that's what you have to do on your discussion board. So if we go to Module 3 discussion board, make sure you answer that question for the Mod 3 Part 2 question. I think we gave the question right before you came in. So check that out as you go back. Okay, so Module 3 discussion board. Boop, 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 boop. So what you're going to do is you're basically going to be answering a few things. The first thing is, according to this class, what does it mean to be a fair division? And we did talk about it in today's live classroom. So if you took good notes, you're going to have it right there. It's also in your book in chapter 3. But make sure you're describing what fair division is in at least 50 words. And make sure it's according to this class, not like general fair division. And you can like talk about some of our examples we discussed in the live classroom as well. Does a fair division mean that you will always get the biggest, best portion? Is it possible that you will envy the portions of other players? And we did discuss this a little bit today, so it's something you want to think about. Make sure you kind of talk about that, maybe use some of our examples in the live classroom if you want to kind of explain this concept. And then it says, test out the divider chooser method with 2 people you know. So the divider chooser method takes 2 people. You can be one of those people. So you really only need one other person. So fun fact, if you live by yourself and you know, with Corona, it's really hard to see other people. You can play with your pet if you want to. Your kid, whatever, your significant other, I don't care. You can make it exciting. Whatever you've got to do, but find one other person because you only need 2 people. And you're going to explain the procedure to them. If you want to, you can watch the video together. And then you're going to divide something. I don't care if it's, you know, piece of pizza, food, chocolate bar, pick your favorite candy, ice cream bar. I don't care what it is. Okay. It could be pens, whatever it is. And basically you're going to run this experiment and they want you to make sure you include a photo. This doesn't have to be a photo of you and the other person. It just has to be a photo of the item. And you can just use your camera on your phone if you want to, and then email it to yourself and then post it. And just make sure you talk about what did you divide, what was their reaction to the division, who was the divider, who was the chooser, and did the two people, maybe yourself included, feel like they received a fair division of the item. So give it a try. It'll make more sense once you watch the divider chooser method, but it's just kind of like a fun little experiment to do with your family, and give that a try. If you have any questions on the divider chooser method as you're going through, feel free to email me. Try to get that done today, but if you need until tomorrow, that's fine as well. Thursday, it's not a huge deal to me. I know sometimes this takes time, but I like you guys to submit it a little bit earlier so then I can reply back with some feedback. So just something to keep in mind.
So, with the what's it called?
Divider chooser method?
Yeah, divider chooser method. When we do our experiment, it could be however many items we want of whatever we pick.
Yes. It can be whatever. It can be whatever you feel like dividing. I don't care. Could be
Like 6 pieces of 6 sneakers divided by 2 people.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Try to keep it so that they're items that aren't necessarily equal value. Like some people might value more to keep it more exciting. But it doesn't have to be if you don't want it to. So.
No, I just use sneakers as an example. I'm not going to buy 6 sneakers, but I was just wondering because I'm looking around. I don't really have nothing I can do this next week, but I have to go to the store.
I mean, you could do something like, here's a bag of chips, and how would you divide that? And then, like, it can be food. Like, it doesn't have to be anything exciting. Just whatever. You can email me too if they were like, is this okay? Yeah, it's probably fine. Yeah. Not a big deal there. And then the written assignment, let's go ahead and pull up and discuss. Oh, one thing I do want to mention when you're talking about the divider chooser method, you're explaining what happens, you're explaining the conclusion, make sure it's at least 100 words for that section. So just be sure to double check that. And then your reflection, most people have been doing a really good job with that, but make sure it's a total of 100 words. Maybe reply to a couple people. You have to reply to another person's discussion board though to make that count. So just be careful of that. Okay. So the assignment, we talked about number 5, doing the pairwise comparisons. And then number 6, you're going to be doing, finding the fair shares of each person. So Anna, Bill, and Carol, they did dollar amounts for this one. So if you want to, you can copy and paste this into the box and then do like the totals. I would do... You don't have to do this, but I would do like totals and fair shares. And you can highlight which sections are like the fair share. That's fine as well. So make sure you say, what's up? Yeah. And it helps visually too. So just make sure to state what are fair shares to Anna, what are fair shares to Bill, to Carol, and then find the fair division of the pizza. So how would you break that up? If it's not possible to do a fair division, you need to explain why not. Okay. Number 7, this one is the percentage problem. So this one's very similar to what we did. There's 3 players, so find out what a fair share is and then tell me which shares are fair to each person. And then just give me the fair division as well. And if there's not a fair division possible, make sure to explain why. Now, so there's 7 problems. Remember that you can email me throughout the week if you want me to check like halfway through. Just make sure to reply back on that email thread so I know what I already checked so I don't have to do double the work. And then, yeah, that's all I have, I think.
Okay, for my question for number 5,
Sure.
I'm gonna send you my work, what I have so far today, if that's okay. Just to
Yeah.
make sure the 1 through 5 questions are, the 1 through 4 questions are headed in the right direction.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I would definitely say you can email me today. That's great. And then we can talk about those first 4 questions and then see if you need any feedback. And then number 5, I would say just give it a try. It's going to be very similar. I mean, if you want to. If you're going to work on it today, yes. If not,
Well, I was gonna work on it after I did a few things, but I can wait to email you to work on number 5, then I'll email it to you.
it's okay either way. Not a problem.
Okay. Okay. But for number 5, with the chart,
Yes.
so you said it'd be 6 groups of people that's going against each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going straight down. So I can do, what's that? I'm so blind. I'm sorry. Can't see that so little. It'll be B versus D and A versus C, like that.
So when you're thinking of the battles, I just want you to go through the list kind of like what we did. So A versus B would be first. So you're going to have to do each column A versus B.
Oh, so it'll be B versus A, C versus D, like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, so then I go down to 18 column. It'll be find out C versus D, D versus B, like that.
Okay, so I think I see what happened. Okay. So let's talk about this example and kind of go through that again. So when we were coming up with the groups, it didn't have anything with the way the chart was laid out. It was all the ways that we could combine A, B, C, and D. So A versus B was first, just because I decided to put those together. It didn't matter what was A and B were first on the chart. A versus C, A versus D, B versus C. So all the different combinations of these groups. And then once we've got that set up, then we dove in and said, okay, for A versus B, we have to go column by column to see who wins.
Okay.
And you're going through the entire chart before you move on to the next group.
Right.
Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but okay. I don't know why I'm still confused on how to group these, how to group them. I don't know why I'm confused, but I am.
They're going to be exactly the same.
Jesus. Okay.
What I would say is give it a try.
It's the same thing. It's just that we got different numbers. The numbers are different from what she's showing us out here on the screen right now. Like on number voters, that's the only really difference in them.
And the order.
The letters aren't the same.
Yeah.
Yes, the orders are just different that's on here. That's on the house that we have for our homework. Okay. That's a different sound. Okay.
So instead of like, for like A versus B in this example, like A1, the first column, right?
Right.
So like in this example, like A versus B, who would win this first column? B. So you would give B 23 points. And then you have to do that for each of those columns.
Okay. Oh, so it'll still be A versus B, A versus D, A versus D, B versus D, like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, but the numbers are just different because our numbers are, okay, I don't even know why that confused me. The setup is the same, but the numbers are different. Got you.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Now when you show me the difference, I got it like, ding.
Okay, awesome. Yay. Yay. Sometimes just in math, just looking at those differences. Mm-hmm. Yay.
Yep.
Nope. The same exact setup. Yep.
Lord Jesus. All right.
Okay. Do you guys have any other questions, Linda?
No, I don't have any now.
I did. We did the code word right before you came in. Like, but I will be posting the live class not right after, but like in an hour. So you'll probably want to watch that first half to see what we're talking about, that pairwise comparison for number 5. Does that sound good? Okay, perfect. Yay! Okay. Thank you guys so much for coming. You guys are a hoot. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time as well.
You guys have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon when you guys email me.
All right. Thank you, Alicia. Have a good day.
You too. Bye, everyone.